Temperatures are rising, and so are sea levels. The world is facing serious storms, both metaphorically and literally. The only way humanity is going to get through this is if we work together. We've gathered specialists in business and innovation for a special forum on December 13th, live on stage and online. Don't miss it.
Good afternoon. That's better. Good afternoon, distinguished guests and erudite panelists, and of course, all ladies and gentlemen, and those who are watching. We have, I think, several people online watching. So welcome to Pathways to a Sustainable Future. I'm Nuri Vitachi. I'm the editor of Friday Every Day. And
I'm Ella Chu. I'm the
one statistic.
Here it is. Almost all the countries in the world signed a document called the Paris Agreement in 2015. This was a pledge to make sure the average global temperature did not rise beyond 1.5 degrees Celsius.
Scientists warn that if it rose beyond 1.5 degrees Celsius, we'd have all sorts of strange effects like typhoons in November, and storms and floods and hurricanes. And guess what the statistic we're going to reveal is?
It was 1.6 degrees above average.
That was the statistic for 20.
So in this part of the world, we take this issue seriously, which is why so many important officiating guests are kindly supporting this forum today. Please welcome them as they join us on stage. 让我们有请出席今天论坛的各位主礼嘉宾上台。
We're just going to step back a bit and call their names and invite them to come up on stage. Mr. Chirk Wing Hing, GBS, JP, Deputy Chief Secretary for Administration of the Hong Kong SAR Government. Mr. Wang Song Miao, Secretary General of the Liaison Office of the Central People's Government in Hong Kong SAR.
有请中央人民政府驻香港特别行政区联络办公室秘书长王松苗先生。
Mr. Li Yongsheng, Deputy Commissioner of the Commissioner's Office of China's Foreign Ministry in Hong Kong SAR.
有请中国外交部驻香港特别行政区特派员公署副特派员李永胜先生。
Mr. Cheung Chi-kong, GBS, Deputy Secretary General of the Hong Kong Coalition. Professor Herman Hu, GBS, JP, Chairman of Friday Culture Limited. And Mr. Wang Kai-bo, Vice Chairman, Deputy Chief Editor, Hong Kong Ta Kung Wen Wei Media Group.
有请香港大公文汇传媒集团副董事长王凯波先生。
Now, in keeping with our theme, we are going to save resources. We have not got a ribbon for you to cut. Instead, we have a graphic on the screen behind you. It will appear momentarily, and it will have certain spaces on which we'd like the guests of honor to place their hands.
请各位主礼嘉宾稍后将手放在身后的大屏幕上，放在对应的图标上，在我们的倒计时结束后，再将手放下来。
Now, if you turn part way round, you'll see a place to place your hand. And what we're going to do is we're all going to do a countdown, audience as well, from 5. And when we get to 5, please lift your hands. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we declare the forum open. Thank you very much.
我宣布本次论坛正式开始。
Thank you, and please stay on stage. We'll ask our cameraman to take a group photograph. So could you move towards the middle, towards the red circle?
请各位主礼嘉宾向前，我们拍一张大合照。
And our cameramen are at the back. They're going to take photographs.
有请摄影师。
Thank you. Please stay up there for a moment longer. We're going to ask some other guests to join you, co-organizers of this forum.
同时，我们也邀请各位尊贵的嘉宾上台。Let's welcome Mrs. Jeannie Hu.
Please come up, Jeannie.
Let's welcome Professor Whitman Hong. Let's welcome Dr. Henry Ho. And also Dr. Winston Ho.
Yeah. Nick Chan was on his way. Has he arrived yet? No, he's not arrived yet. Okay. But please, group photograph, please, for all the participants and organizers here.
就请我们的摄影师，请各位主礼嘉宾看向前方的摄影机。
Thank you. You may take your seats, please. All except Professor Herman Hu.
请各位主礼嘉宾下台就坐。
We're going to ask Professor Herman Hu to stay on stage to deliver the opening remarks, and a podium is being delivered as we speak.
Good afternoon. Mr. Chek Wing-hing, Mr. Wang Song-miao, Mr. Li Yongzheng, Mr. Zheng Jigong, Mr. Wang Kaipo, distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone joining us online. Thank you for coming. I warmly welcome you to the fourth forum held by the Hong Kong Coalition and Friday Culture. This year, we are delighted to be joined by another co-organizer, Dot Dot News, a modern digital news operation from Da Kung Bao, the Chinese newspaper founded in 1902. In the first two gatherings in this series, we focused on international communications and on the need to make this world fairer and safer. Last year, the forum theme was called Leading in a Time of Transition, as we detected major changes in everything from business to geopolitics. But climate change kept cropping up as a crucial underlying concern in all areas. What good are all of our achievements if cities are underwater or devastated by hurricanes or methane storms? So this year, we are putting the environment front and center as our main theme. That's why we have our title, Pathways to a Sustainable Future. I won't pretend that there are easy answers to all these challenges. Indeed, scientists worry that humanity has damaged the natural world so badly that it can't be fixed. I respect what they say, but I still have hope. Let me share a story from recent history. In 1963, Chinese scientists warned that the giant panda was in danger of extinction. The government established a reserve for the animal in Sichuan province, and the scientists said it was very difficult, perhaps impossible, to breed them in captivity. Yet, those Chinese scientists won't take no for an answer and kept on working. Results? There are hundreds of giant pandas living with humans, and at least 1,800 of them living wild in the mountains. Scientists have worked out how to breed them and reintroduce them into the wild, and they have been taken off the endangered species list. Hong Kong, we have 6 giant pandas, 2 of them born just a few months ago, right here in Hong Kong. China's national animal is so popular with our residents and tourists in this city that economists even compiled figures for a panda economy. I share this story because it started off with a problem that seemed impossible to solve and ends with people successfully turning the situation around. People are the answer. People like Ms. Meng Liu, a sustainability specialist from the United Nations. She sent us a video message which we will hear shortly. UN participants said last year that the single biggest contributor to enabling countries to achieve the UN most important set of sustainability goals is not UN groups, but the Belt and Road Initiative, which was launched by China 10 years ago. One more story to share. Earlier this year, a research group connected to Bloomberg News was measuring the growth of clean energy around the world. When they got to growth figures for wind power, they noted that the total wind power output for the world was not growing, but falling. Then they got to the data from China and discovered that China has added so many wind farms that it wiped out the entire global shortfall and turned a negative figure into 5% increase. So one community can make a difference. In fact, China had implemented more solar and wind power projects than all other countries put together. It has switched more vehicles to clean energy than all other countries combined. And of course, China is also a leader in reforestation, in battery production, in investment in clean energy R&D, in greening deserts, and so on. A recent report showed that China had managed to cut the cost of solar panels so low that poor people in rural areas of developing countries like Pakistan, they were canceling their electricity contracts and running their homes entirely on Chinese-made solar panels. In October, the International Energy Agency released a report that said China was on target to add more renewable energy capacity in the next 6 years than all of its planet's 200 other countries combined. I can go on, but you get the point. One community can make a difference. You may be asking yourself a question. Why are these facts not more widely known? My answer to that is that they should be. And we're trying to make that happen. I'm here representing Friday Culture, a young media group that creates contents to balance out the rather negative portrayal of our city and our country. And a final comment. We often think of environmental protection as a modern way of looking at the world. But 25 centuries ago, a teacher named Lao Tzu already taught us the importance of harmony between man and nature. He said that nature was designed as a series of self-maintaining mechanisms. All humanity has to do is make sure they don't stop the miracle from happening. Well, it's always good to listen to the wise, and that's why I look forward to hearing from our Chief Executive, Mr. John Lee, Ms. Meng Liu from the United Nations, and from our panelists this afternoon. Thank you. Hope you enjoy the forum.
Thank you, Professor Hu. Hong Kong's Chief Executive, Mr. John Lee, has always been a great supporter of today's forum. And he also made a video message especially for this event. Let's watch the video together.
Secretary General Wang Songmiao, Deputy Commissioner Li Yongsheng, Professor Herman Hu, Mr. Zheng Jiguang, Mr. Wang Kaibo, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm pleased to speak to you at the 4th International Forum organized by Friday Culture Limited, the Hong Kong Coalition, and Dot News. You are gathered to discuss a topic of vital importance to Hong Kong and indeed all of humanity: pathways to a sustainable future. The world is faced with accelerating changes not seen in a century. Amid deepening geopolitical tensions, escalating trade disruptions, and increasingly severe environmental challenges, exploring the path to sustainable development has become the responsibility of our generation, as well as a valuable legacy for the generations to come. As one of the top 3 global financial centers, Hong Kong is committed to supporting the cause of sustainability through our strengths in finance. Hong Kong is a leading sustainable finance hub in Asia. Core Climate, the international carbon market launched by the Hong Kong Exchange, is the world's only carbon market to offer Hong Kong dollar and renminbi settlement for the trading of international voluntary carbon credits. The Hong Kong Monetary Authority has unveiled the Sustainable Finance Action Agenda. As detailed in the 8 goals proposed in the Action Agenda, our banks will strive to achieve net zero in their own operations by 2030 and in their financed emissions by 2050. We will also develop Hong Kong into the go-to sustainable financing platform of Asia and beyond, closing talent and knowledge gaps in sustainable finance in the region. The Hong Kong SAR government will launch a roadmap this year on the full adoption of the International Financial Reporting Standards, Sustainability Disclosure Standards, or the ISSB standards. I'm pleased to add that we have already launched the roadmap this week. It underlines our commitment in facilitating sustainable financing and investment for the global agenda of green transition. At the same time, Hong Kong is dedicated to the application of renewable energy and propelling our green and low-carbon transformation. The government will subsidize the taxi trade and franchise bus companies to purchase electric vehicles, as well as the trials of hydrogen fuel cell heavy vehicles. More on green transport. The number of electric vehicles in Hong Kong has increased from about 14,000 5 years ago to over 100,000 now. We will continue to expand the network of charging facilities to ensure that there will be sufficient and convenient charging facilities to meet the needs of various types of electric vehicles. We target to increase the number of public and private parking spaces with charging infrastructure in Hong Kong to about 200,000 by mid-2027. Ladies and gentlemen, Hong Kong will continue on the path of sustainable development and actively seek opportunities for cooperation with partners from home and beyond in addressing the challenges posed by climate change. I believe that by embracing collaboration, we will be able to find forward-thinking solutions and create a better future for Hong Kong and the world. My thanks to the organizers for this important gathering. I trust that today's discussions will inspire more thinking and action, uniting our community in contributing to a sustainable world. I wish you the best of health in the coming year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. John Lee, for sending that message to us. Some of our officiating guests has other duties, so they might leave first. 我们有几位主礼嘉宾还有公务在身，会先行离开。感谢你们的到来。Thank you for your support.
Now, our next, we've got a video message from Miss Meng Liu.
Yes, many of you will know that the world's nations have pledged to fulfill a series of sustainable development goals with a 2030 deadline. It's a challenging deadline.
Yeah, let me just say a few words about the lady you're about to see on screen. The United Nations realized that UN and NGOs could not achieve much. They needed big governments, they needed business people. So they arranged something called the Global Compact. Now, one of the meanings of the word compact is a treaty or an agreement, a pact. So this lady, Meng Liu, is one of that team, and she's getting private businesses and organizations in China and around the region to join in this mission. And that's what she's going to talk about today. Let's step away and watch the message from Ms. Meng Liu of the United Nations Global Compact.
I'm truly honored to represent the world's largest corporate sustainability initiative to speak with you. The topic I would like to share today is Forward Hong Kong Business Faster to Agenda 2030. Like many of our UN brothers and sisters organizations, the UN Global Compact is committed to the 2030 Agenda and its 17 Sustainable Development Goals by mobilizing the private sector to do business in a sustainable and responsible manner. As a special initiative of the UN Secretary-General, UN Global Compact is the world's largest global initiative promoting and advancing corporate sustainability with over 24,000 participants from over 180 countries. And among them, there are about 1,200 from China, including many of them based in Hong Kong SAR of China. UN Global Compacts call for companies to align their operations and strategies with 10 principles in 4 areas: human rights, labor, environment, and anti-corruption. And some of you may realize these 4 pillars can be linked to what we call ESG, environment, social, and governance. And this is a concept we proposed about 20 years ago based on the 10 principles of UN Global Compact in the area of human rights, labor, environment, and anti-corruption. We trust that the ESG ecosystem in Hong Kong has set an ambitious example to many parts of the world. For example, Hong Kong SAR government was the 4th largest source of aligned government green bond last year. Hong Kong is also the early adopter of ESG and non-financial mandatory disclosure of the listed companies that helps boost investment confidence and transparency. For example, Hong Kong Exchange and Clearing Limited played an important and active role to advance corporate sustainability. I very much look forward to the continuous efforts by the Hong Kong stakeholders in all industries, such as enhancing corporate behavior on business ethics, anti-corruption, as well as effective way to combat greenwashing and other ESG material issues. Today, many companies already get the sense of how to integrate ESG into their investment product and operations, as well as governance decision, but may not understand well how to work on it faster or lead to a more extensive impact. The Forward Faster initiative of the UN Global Compact aims to challenge business to raise their ambition levels by taking tangible, measurable, accountable actions in all 5 areas: living wage, gender equality, climate, water, and sustainable finance. Only with the acceleration of all these areas, instead of 1 or 2 of them, can the private sector be sustainable and resilient to the change of business context, policy, and natural environment. I hope the international guidance developed by UN Global Compact can shed light on your sustainability roadmap and target setting and to accelerate business progress towards 2030 agenda. Here are some questions I'm going to ask. Number one, can we ensure 100% of employees across each organization earning a living wage by 2030? Number two, can we set corporate science-based net zero emissions target in line with a 1.5 Celsius pathway to combat climate change? Number three, can we ensure companies apply equal pay for the work of equal value by 2030 and ensure equal representation, participation, and leadership across all levels of management by 2030? Number four, can we align corporate investment with SDG policies and strategies and set targets, track, and report on the amount and proportion of such SDG investments to the fullest extent possible? Last but not least, can we build water resilience across global operations and supply chains and join hands to achieve collective positive water impact in at least 100 prioritized water-stressed basins by 2030? As we reach the halfway point of 2030 agenda, I urge all companies and your leaders here to become driving forces for this common goal. Together, through the efforts of UN Global Compact and each of your active participation, we can inject more momentum into the SDGs. Thank you once again to all the leaders and participants today, and I wish today's event a great success and many actions to follow. Thank you.
Thank you for that message from the United Nations, Meng Liu. Now, we have two panels today, the first of which will focus on the contribution that people in business, finance, and industry can make, and the second by people in science and technology.
The first panel is called Green Business and Beyond. We are delighted to have Dr. Henry Ho, founder and chairman of One Country, Two Systems Youth Forum. He's also a member of the expert group of Chief Executive Policy Unit of the Hong Kong SAR government. He will be the moderator for our first panel. Welcome, Dr. Henry Ho.
Thank you, Dr. Ho. And let's also welcome our panelists. First, we have Mr. Johannes Haak, Vice Chair of the European Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong.
And we have Mr. Joseph Lo, Managing Director of CLP Power Hong Kong Limited.
And we have Mr. Nick Chan. He's Director of the Asian African Legal Consultative Organization, Hong Kong Regional Arbitration Center.
And we have Mr. Paul Pong, founder of Institute of ESG and Benchmark. Welcome.
Handing over to Dr. Henry Ho.
Hello. I'm glad to moderate this panel. This panel is about green business and beyond. We all know that the world is now facing geopolitical tensions and having global warming and other environmental sustainability issues. And in recent years, Hong Kong has made achievements in green financing and bonding, and we are also introducing renewable energy, green and hydrogen transportation, green buildings, etc. And our goal is to achieve carbon neutrality. In this panel, we are glad to have experts from Europe and Hong Kong here, and they come from finance, power generation, as well as legal sectors. My first question goes to Mr. Johannes Haak. Johannes, you are also the president of the German Chamber of Commerce. Can you share with us what do you think about the role and unique advantages of Europe to boost green businesses and industries in Hong Kong?
Thank you very much, Henry. Actually, I'm also, which is maybe more pertinent, the co-chair of the Sustainable Finance Working Group of Eurocham, which is where all the European banks get together to discuss how we can aid Hong Kong in its role here. So I think the first positive message, Hong Kong is already doing quite a lot. It's been mentioned in the keynote speeches. Hong Kong is one of the biggest provider of green bonds. And I looked up, before I came here, I looked up who are the investors in these bonds. And of the bonds that have been issued so far, the biggest investor is an American hedge fund, followed by a German insurance company. So, and then come a number of other fund managers from Europe, from across the world. So Hong Kong, in that sense, is already playing a very important role because it is already truly acting as an international finance center also for green bonds. So I think that's a key positive, and that's something very important. Another thing that was also mentioned is that Hong Kong has now said we will adopt the ISSB, the International Sustainable Standard Sports recommendations on how to report, have made out a pathway for that. I think these are really very good things. In day-to-day life, to make also maybe that comment, I think in Germany, when our green career started, it was initially more sort of a grassroots movement. So people felt, okay, the environment is not so good, we need to do something about the environment. It was very much about the people saying, okay, how do I recycle my paper? How do I recycle my batteries? Things like that. On that level, I think, frankly, in Hong Kong, we still have a little bit of ways to go to ensure that certain things become more embedded in people's minds. I was at a different conference recently where all the water was served in tin cans. And a tin can for water is a very energy inefficient use of energy, so that's not super sustainable. So things like, how do you make sure that events are sustainable? We've heard the chief executive talk about the drive to make the cars more sustainable. Of course, you can think about every conference you have on sustainability. You drive all the participants there in electric vehicles. I think these grassroots things are ones where day to day there is still room for potential. On the high level of finance, I think it's doing very well already. And of course, the role going forward will be to make sure that more money coming out of Europe is deployed in Hong Kong, but also deployed in the mainland, and in the other, particularly important, in the other countries in the ASEAN region, because China is already, of course, very well developed on its pathway. A lot of other places here can benefit from Hong Kong channeling money to ASEAN countries to be deployed there in improving their sustainability.
Thank you. So, hi, Joseph. You have worked in CLP, the largest power company of Hong Kong, for over 20 years. And what do you think Hong Kong can play to boost green business development, in particular power generation and electricity sectors?
Thank you, Henry. Hong Kong's power sector actually plays a very important role to decarbonize Hong Kong. Just to give you a sense of what the carbon emissions of Hong Kong is, roughly around per year 40 million tons of carbon, right? 60% of it comes from the power sector. And another 20% comes from the transport sector. So if you can imagine, if we can decarbonize the power sector to providing a zero carbon electricity supply, we can essentially solve over 80% of Hong Kong's carbon emissions issues. So what the power sector has done, and the Hong Kong government is taking a very good lead in doing this, is that we've set for Hong Kong a net zero target for 2050. Now, you might think, well, there are a lot of places that have set net zero targets around that time, right? What's so special about Hong Kong? What is so special is that Hong Kong's roadmap to get to 2050 is actually much clearer than many other jurisdictions around the world. We have an interim target. So this is all set up by the Climate Action Plan published by the government. So not only do we need to get to net zero by 2050, there's an interim target to make sure Hong Kong's carbon emissions are cut by half by 2035, right? And then the roadmap also tells you how we get there. right? We would decarbonize the power sector by having more zero carbon electricity in Hong Kong, more natural gas generation, less coal, more zero carbon imports through regional cooperation. So this would all lower the carbon intensity of Hong Kong's electricity sector. And then also, there are also measures on waste, how we decarbonize the waste sector. There are also measures on how we decarbonize the transport sector. So for example, if we're able to make all the transport infrastructure through electrification, whether it's private cars, buses, taxis, heavy vehicles, then we can also reduce carbon emissions in those sectors as well and bring Hong Kong closer to the 2050 net zero target.
Joseph, because this panel we're talking about green business, and I understand you have a carbon credit program. And can you share with us how it could reduce carbon emissions? And do you think carbon trading will be a critical part of our green financing?
That's a good question, Henry. Now, when we're talking about decarbonization, there are usually 4 areas that we advise our customers to pursue in this order. Number 1 is you have to improve your energy efficiency, right? That's the easiest thing and usually the most cost-competitive way of doing things, right? The second is that you try to utilize local zero-carbon or renewable energy that you can, okay? The third is that we would reduce the carbon intensity of our grid so that all our customers can get a lower carbon electricity supply. And if all that can be done, there's still a little bit of carbon left, then we go to carbon trading to access carbon credits to offset the remaining credits that we don't have. So we advise our customers to do that. We help them to do all 4 measures. And in the carbon selling program that we actually have renewable energy projects in mainland China and in India that produce carbon credits and that we make available to be sold to interested customers that we come across.
Okay, thank you. So Nick, you have a very unique background here. You are a solicitor with IT background, and you are also the deputy to National People's Congress in China. So, and also you are appointed the director of Asian African Legal Consultative Organization, ALCO, am I right?
Yes.
And the Hong Kong Regional Arbitration Center. Can you share with us any green business opportunities in Africa and also ASEAN countries, as I understand you recently visited there?
Thank you, Henry. In the last month, I've probably not been too environmentally friendly. A lot of carbon footprints. But flying around a lot. Last month, I think I was in Hong Kong for 5 days. Not to be boastful, but but what I'm trying to point out is it's when you travel so many different countries, and ALCO have 48 countries as our member states, you recognize that different countries are at different stages of development. So we have to respect every country have the right to, maybe I'll probably, this is better. Every country have a right to, its own economic path. And so as you see different countries face, go through different phases of development, some would need energy. For example, I was in South Africa and having a meeting at the 17th floor, and all of a sudden power went out. And we were at a government premises, a new government headquarters. So in short, to answer your question in a more simple, direct way, I would say we have to collaborate around the world. For example, in terms of power, you see in South Africa, they can benefit with, say, a power energy company, nuclear power energy company from this part of the world, or CLP, not using self-development nuclear power, but a power energy company in this part of the world, going there, helping them to stabilize their electricity supply. And then, for example, if we were to produce products there, manufacture there, you could sell them to the US import tax-free. If you go to Egypt, where the average salary is $150 and a month, you could produce it there and sell to Arab nations. You could sell it to Europe import-free. But then that's only part of the equation. Another equation, of course, is we want, as today's theme is pathway to a sustainable future. So to have a more sustainable future, some parts of the world still need to use older forms of energy production, still need to do more manufacturing than others. Some have moved up the supply chain where we do more services than manufacturing. So then we really need an ecosystem with carbon credit trading. And I think Hong Kong have a very, very unique role to play. We are the bridge of Asia and the rest of the world, and particularly as the common law gateway. Our financial center, Hong Kong is the international financial center of the world, but also for our country, China. So if you do carbon credit trading, as Joseph touched on, we have to think about how we do it efficiently, how we open up the market. Joseph talked about, from what I learned from what Joseph just said, I feel that Hong Kong, because we don't do a lot of manufacturing locally, we don't need to use a lot of carbon credits locally. However, this is a great place to do trading. We have a great stock exchange. We have ownership in exchange in London, for example. And when we go to other parts of the world, we talk about dual listing. But a lot of talk is about how China then was one of the first to be part of the Kyoto Protocol, and how in my own practice as a lawyer, I see we've done a lot of work in terms of carbon credit reinsurance out of Hong Kong. And a lot of the purchases are actually from Europe. And it's interesting to note how one of the first investors now in the green bond market is from America, you mentioned. But the Europeans are way ahead of the curve in this. But Hong Kong has so much we could do. With COP29 just happened in Azerbaijan, there's a lot of actionable items that we can do from Hong Kong. And because of our membership in international organizations, such as ELCO through China, we could really help to resolve. As a center, we could do a lot of carbon credit disputes resolution. You have different standards in the world. Who's going to say what are greenwashing, what is not, what is CCER, what is voluntary, what's not, what counts, what doesn't. And I think it's an amazing opportunity. I think this session conference is very timely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
ELCO involves 48 countries, right, in Asia and Africa.
Yes.
And I understand representing 1/3 of the world population. So there's a huge market there, although it's developing countries. How do you see the potential and also the challenges of developing green business there, in particular for China's investment over there?
I think there are plenty of opportunity. As I visit these countries, sometimes with the government, sometimes as ELCO ourselves, meeting with ministers, a lot of the request is, can you license to us Chinese technology? Because of geopolitics, they probably don't want to so much rely on a particular Western country. So they would prefer to have a more collegial sort of approach to this. So they want to license from us. They also want, a lot of them fully embrace the Belt and Road Initiative. 48 countries, 95%, basically 47, are fully embracing of the Belt and Road Initiative. So trading is the lifeline for a lot of economies. So when people do trade, they're going to leave carbon footprint. When you manufacture, as China is the number one trading partner with 120 countries out of 193 countries, so a lot of trade happens. And when you trade, how do you move the products? And with Belt and Road, with the Sea Road now, and also the harmonization of standards for railway tracks, that we're moving more goods inland as well. But you see a lot of opportunities where people are saying, can you come and do manufacturing because you're so efficient? From the other countries, they're saying their average labor cost, it's a lot lower than other parts of the world, including China. In China, since 2009, our average labor costs have increased and not the lowest anymore. So they would really want us to move our factories things there to produce and have way to move the products, take advantage of trade relations that they enjoy. And they would want to then, I think a key way to capture, a lot of carbon credits are produced through manufacturing. By reducing carbon emission from manufacturing, from energy production, manufacturing, refining of minerals and so on, if you give them good technology, maybe Hong Kong could be a good place to help them. We are saying in Hong Kong, no money, no talk. Right? But money isn't the most important, but without money, you can't do very much. So if you can do some financing in Hong Kong, help them get the technology they need, improve their manufacturing, make it more efficient, more energy sustainable, environmentally sustainable, then you can create carbon credits that you could measure, you could put on the exchange in Hong Kong or elsewhere, you could sell and trade. The carbon exchange market today in mainland China, it's dwarfs Hong Kong. It's so much bigger. But it's more a domestic market. So how can we link the domestic market through Hong Kong to the international market investors through maybe Carbon Connect into the Chinese market? That's a lot that can be done, and this is an opportune time to do it.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Last but not least, we have Mr. Paul Pong. Paul is a renowned, financial expert in this city. Many of you may see him in the TV, advising investors and all the institutions. And I know you are involved in fund management and advocate for good ESG practices for many years. Can you share with us your own experience and how to persuade local businesses that ESG is not just PR, but it will make good financial returns?
First of all, ESG is very hot at the present moment due to the climate change and also regulatory change and also the global focus change. Firstly, I would like to say that embracing ESG can lead to cost saving. And then in the long term, if not, the earlier you act, actually, the better you can gain more support from the government, banks, the ESG corporate support, or others to transform into green business, but with less compliance costs. This is very important. In contrast, the government offer some of the support like they call the Green and Sustainable FinTech Proof of Concept Funding Support Scheme grant. It depends on your project. Hong Kong from 150,000 Hong Kong dollar to the approved project or more. So this is very good. If we act now, we can catch this opportunity and thereby reduce our entry costs. All the above is called the first mover advantage. Second, apart from the government, I think a lot of banks, like the Hang Seng Bank and the other corporation, like Hang Seng Bank, they have provide a called Sustainable Development Financing Fund of up to Hong Kong 80 billion to assist all the enterprise in implementing green transition. So, furthermore, for example, TANGAS, I do not know whether China might have, and HSBC cooperate to offer low interest to all the TANGAS suppliers. And I think this is important to implement, for them to implement the green transformation. The more the carbon reduction, the lower the rate, interest rate. The faster you react to USD, the easier and earlier you can succeed. Besides, for the fund industry, at the present moment, we have more than 200 funds authorized in Hong Kong, get the ESG, called the ESG fund. They have about the AUM, about $169 billion, sitting there to invest in the ESG company. The better USD you have, the more money you get from the fund management industry, not just the fund like pension fund, some other special fund, or we call the social enterprise fund, and some of the funds, they are specialized on the ESG. So you get all the money from these fund managers. And this is very good. That means you get higher variation, better liquidity, and also if you issue the bond or equity, then you can get better pricing. This is very important. So if the company in good ESG rating and all this, the government and all the stakeholders will love this company and their corporate service or even product. So in turn, they will secure a lot of good profit for the shareholder as well as for the company. So I think for all this, I think a lot of companies would like to be the first mover to be the good ESG rating company.
Thank you, Paul. Next, I want to talk about green business talents. We all know top-notch talents are hunted by countries all over the world, and Hong Kong is recently positioned by the central government as a high-end international talents hub. So I want to ask Johannes. So we know Hong Kong has a lot of talent pass scheme already. For example, if you have annual salary over 2.5 million Hong Kong dollars, or you graduated from QS 100 universities, you are welcome to come to Hong Kong and find a job. Before, you need to find a job first, which is not that easy, and then you get a visa. But now you can come to Hong Kong for like 3 years. So if you are a technology or financial talent in Europe, what factors would you consider whether to live or work in Hong Kong?
Thank you. I think one factor that a lot of people consider, so I work in a bank full time, and we have a lot of interns who come here from Europe, who come here from the German universities that are also part of that top talent scheme. In the first instance, everyone obviously who comes to Hong Kong loves it. This is a great place to live, it's a great place to hike, it's a great place to eat. We all know it's just a fantastic place to be. One issue that is, I think, adding a little bit of complexity, and where this forum is actually very helpful, is language. I think it's fair to say that Putonghua, like Cantonese, is not an easy language. And it is. I tried when I came to Hong Kong to learn Cantonese. I did not succeed. Holan, I think it's very difficult. And so language, I think, is an area where Hong Kong will need to make to increase or sustain its efforts to make sure that English remains the language that is spoken in financial institutions. Because the feedback I get from those students who have applied in Hong Kong is that their talent is very welcome, but the language skills are an issue, that there is more demand for Putonghua speaking people than for English speaking people. I think that is an area where maybe not a quota, but a sensitivity to this issue would be welcome. We also spoke, I said earlier, CLP is a prime example of a company that has a very diverse mix of people that they hire. I think companies here looking to hire should look across the spectrum and across the language spectrum. Because except for that, obviously Hong Kong does offer a lot beside the good living that you have here. This will be over time the place where really, with the taxonomies aligning from mainland China and the EU and being aligned here in Hong Kong, there will be huge space to make this the prime place where you channel investment into the funds that are here already, into additional ones. Again, not simply for the mainland, but most importantly also for all the other countries in the region. So the short answer again is think of language a lot, make sure that you have a diverse set of skills that are unified, ideally by, I'm German, but by the lingua franca English.
Thanks, Johannes. Our dear audience may want to know that actually we have a new policy in Hong Kong where permanent residents of non-Chinese can now apply for a 5-year, multiple entry card, much the same way as Hong Kong residents to go to China. And I think that's also very attractive to foreigners thinking about moving to Hong Kong. Paul, so you have done many ESG training. Do you think we have enough ESG professionals? And if not, how can we attract more to really fulfill the demand of this booming business?
I think at the present moment, I think we do not have enough ESG talent at the present moment. Because, first of all, I think all the listed companies, more than 2000 in Hong Kong, they all need the ESG professional. But suddenly, we do not have that kind of supply. So the main reason is that if you look for a lot of big company, like the Hang Seng Index company, blue chip company, if I think the ESG staff is moving to jumping to different company because a lot of them is corporate is, having enough staff. So a lot of it is headhunt from the others.
Okay.
So I think the easier way is to train themselves, and actually at the present moment with the support of the government, there are a lot of schemes that to encourage and also subsidies the individual as well as the corporate to cultivate their staff to study the professional designation. Like, for example, we have the CESGP, Certified ESG Professional. So it's like the CFA and CFP, etc. Then you can train them in a short time, and then they get a very good idea and discipline being the ESG professional. And then they can work in the different company, and after, because they have the actual experience and also try out in the company, then they can train up to be the ESG professional. So I think it needs time to cultivate enough ESG professional at the present moment.
Nick, what's your views? You are our deputy to the National People's Congress, right? And you have a lot of opportunities talking to the central government officials. So how can we attract more international talents?
I think you need to build a bigger market. But as I mentioned earlier, if we properly serve out our role as the bridge between China and the rest of the world, in this case, particularly to Europe, I think the opportunity, the market is immense. Hong Kong have 5 of the top 100 universities in the world. We have, and this is a record. No other city has that. But in terms of what we should do, not only should we build talents locally, but we should export talents to the rest of the Belt and Road jurisdictions, rest of the global south. Today, I think we need to work more on the standards, harmonization of standards between Europe and China, because both are huge markets. And China in particular, I think in 2021, we produce 1/3 of the world's CO2. And in a few years, apart from the 30-60 plan we have, right, carbon peak by 2030, what we're trying to do is to merge the markets and reduce the uncertainty. We have to unlock the value I think we have today. And in China, as we move from just making mandatory for power energy companies to be part of the carbon credit, compulsory system, CCR, we're going to move on to steel, aluminium as well. So the market's going to grow, and naturally, if Hong Kong take advantage of the opportunity and also to serve its role, because the financial market in mainland China isn't as open as Hong Kong is. So when you do this trading, if you open it up and through, as I mentioned just now, Carbon Connect, I think we can afford to train a lot more people and naturally attract a lot of people here. Technology, I think, is also key. You talk about national policy. National policy is to use innovation to drive growth. And green tech, and in a lot of what we do now, carbon credit, you need a trusted blockchain. And Hong Kong being a great place to develop Web 3.0, a lot of these different technologies, and the work I know people do here at China Resources, I think we are well placed to attract a lot of talents to do a good job, not just for Hong Kong and our nation, but for the world.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
How about Joseph? What's your take? How to attract or nurture more energy talents?
Yes, CLP is sort of like a miniature version of Hong Kong. We need the engineering talents that to help us implement the energy transition, right, to decarbonize Hong Kong. We need digital talents make use of new technologies to improve our Hong Kong's work processes and efficiency, right? So what we do is that we have dedicated programs to attract local talents, mainland talents, as well as international talents, both on the engineering side, on the digital side, as well as on the general commercial talents as well. So we have, I think one word is agility. We just need to be very agile. We need to be out there explaining what Hong Kong is like in real life, what the attractions of working and staying in Hong Kong is, and what the opportunities are, and the meaningful career that they can develop in Hong Kong. I think those are all part of what we all should be doing, is to tell, not just tell the good Hong Kong story, is to tell the good Hong Kong future story as well. Because Hong Kong, there's a lot of work to be done in decarbonizing Hong Kong and building a better city. And there's exciting projects that we have, and people would enjoy that career to be part of that exciting journey.
Thank you, Joseph. Next, I want to talk about Belt and Road Initiative. And the first question I also like to ask Joseph, because CLP, your operations not only in Hong Kong, right? You have India, and also we know that energy supply, energy infrastructure form a very important part of the Belt and Road Initiative. Can you share with us some experience?
Yeah, we, the CLP Group expanded from its Hong Kong business to international areas, including Belt and Road countries, over 20 years ago. So we have not only an operation in Hong Kong and mainland, we have a big operation in Australia, in India, and we also have investments in Taiwan, Thailand, etc. So going forward, I think we fully support the Belt and Road Initiative. We are looking for opportunities where we can contribute our engineering expertise to help some of the Belt and Road countries to develop their economy in terms of power needs, as well as to help them decarbonize. So, for example, we have a solar farm that we've developed in Thailand, right? We done that a few years ago. We also recently are partnering in going to Laos to develop renewable energy resources to hopefully bring it back to other Southeast Asia countries or even back to mainland. So these are some of the projects that we're actively pursuing, and we hope to contribute to their economic development as well as their decarbonization efforts as well.
Great. And Nick, I think among your 48 countries, most, if not all of them, are Belt and Road Initiative countries.
Right.
So can you share with us some experience? How do you promote BRI, and also in particular for the dispute resolution of infrastructure projects? I think there are numerous, right? How do you promote and work on that?
Well, I mean, as we enter the so-called golden decade of the Belt and Road Initiative, second 10 years, I think the focus is now not just on the traditional infrastructure, but also on the digital highway, digital infrastructure, digital services, and so on and so forth. But even that, even if you look at the crypto world, it's not very environmentally friendly. So how do you build better data centers? There's a lot of experience sharing that people can do, knowledge sharing, technology sharing we could do. But if you talk about more the traditional, some countries are particular well placed to produce solar power because they just have a lot more sun. Some places have a lot more wind. There's just nothing around it, and they also have wind farms on the sea and so on. But from some of the visits we've done, some of the studies we've done, but I'm no expert compared to Joseph here. But if you produce it, you need a cost-efficient way to store it and then to use it, to call it up, and it's not environmentally friendly, particularly sometimes. So then what we're learning, from what I learned, then what I'm trying to do is, when you find these places that can produce energy, you can't bring the energy to the factories, then you bring the factories to the energy. In some ways, in mainland China, we have done this model a fair bit in a lot of different provinces. And we were sharing that experience with other parts of the world. And they really appreciate if we could do financing in Hong Kong, get the manufacturing over there, and our efficiency, Chinese speed, right, get things done. So in terms of disputes resolution, if I may,
any examples to share?
Plenty. Arbitration, you have to be confidential in particular cases. Okay. But he's trying to trick me. Oh, no, don't lose my license over this. No, I'm kidding. But essentially, if you want to do cross-border international infrastructure projects, therefore big dollar projects, you need to find a way to be able to resolve the dispute fairly and then to enforce the decision fairly. And so today we have something called the New York Convention. Well, first of all, let's say if you sign a contract with a U.S. company, I'll just pick anyone, but U.S. company, and when you negotiate a contract, they might say they insist on using U.S. law, U.S. courts, because they're familiar with it, presumably, and you want to insist on your own. And either side that won and put your own law in or your own courts in to the contract. At the end of the day, though, is that judgment enforceable in any way apart from your own jurisdiction? Chances are no. I was told the U.S. court judgments are not enforceable anywhere in the world. Shouldn't say that. I should say there's no bilateral agreement. Or you could say maybe even Canada probably doesn't just listen to what the courts in another country says, for example. So what you do then is do arbitration. Arbitration have this thing called the New York Convention, was signed in New York, I think in 1958. By now, we have about 172, 73 countries that are part of the New York Convention. So if you resolve disputes, including infrastructure disputes, by arbitration, based on the New York Convention, in theory, you can enforce it in other New York Convention states. However, there's no superarching body that supervises the enforcement. Now, the beauty comes with ALCO, Asia African Legal Consultative Organization, established in 1956, and since the 1970s, we have 6 regional centers. 3 years ago, President Xi Jinping put it to the 47 member states and say, can we put one up in this part of the world, Hong Kong, China? And that was established. So with this organization, most of the staff are diplomats, seconded from the 48 countries. So now, for once, we have a superarching international intergovernmental organization that could help to enforce awards. And therefore, you don't get burned one time, you don't do business again. But that's particularly useful in big infrastructure projects, big projects. A lot of the mega power projects are mega in dollar sign, and therefore need disputes. Edmund's an expert in that. But anyway, so I think there are plenty of, we can cite a lot of investor-state disputes. If you invest in another country, that's called, if you have a problem, that's an investor and state dispute. So it's a private organization against a local government. Do you feel lucky when you go to the courts in that country to try to win? But then you have this international body again, such as ALCO, and we're the only international organization in Hong Kong of this kind, where what's unique for the Belt and Road jurisdictions? I mean, China, of course, is a major proponent of the Belt and Road initiative, but this is the only place, perhaps in the world, outside of mainland China, where if you started an arbitration with the organization, with help from the organization, you name us at the center, you can immediately go to Chinese courts and ask to freeze the assets and the evidence in mainland China. Otherwise, you go to Singapore, you go to London, for example, you have to wait for the arbitration decision, the award to come out, maybe in 18 months or more. Then you try and look for the evidence, you try and look for the assets to enforce against. It's a little bit hard, so therefore this is a neutral ground. This is a well-known brand. Hong Kong is a well-known brand. ALCO is also a well-known brand along the 48 countries. So we don't see as giving anyone unfair advantage. We see as giving everyone a fair ground where if you sign up to it, you mean it, and it should be enforceable. Thank you, Henry.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
And Paul, you are a fund manager, right? And you invest all over the world, including Belt and Road nations, Belt and Road Initiative nations. So what do you think the investment prospects of those countries, in particular the green business, green development?
I think the opportunities is very great. For example, I have the experience going to Africa. Okay. So for them, you can see that the telecommunication company is very profitable because the mobile phone is very popular. I think with that, I think we can use now Hong Kong has the infrastructure besides the common law and all this. Then we have all the virtual asset infrastructure in place. I think we can tokenize and also from the real asset to digitalize using the mobile phone to trade and to collect all the money from very small to large amount. So in actual Africa, the microfinancing is very popular at that time. And I think we can use the SDO or tokenize to raise a lot of money and actually invest in those hard assets. Because most of the Belt and Road, I think the product and all this is a hard asset. I think this is very good. And at the present moment, Hong Kong Bank is already, they changed the goal into digitize the gold. So I think the gold can be like the digitized and then use as USDC or what it, and then use a Web2 or Web3 to trade. I think the Belt and Road people can learn faster than that because they have the mobile phone, they have no burden, they can learn faster in the new way of dealing material investment and also, trading I think the investment.
Kind of last
even
mover
it's a hard
advantage.
asset. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Well, in the past 40 minutes or so, we started from Europe to Africa, ASEAN, and Belt and Road. Now let's come back to Greater Bay Area, come back to China, where Greater Bay Area includes Hong Kong, Macau, and 9 cities in the Pearl River Delta. And my first question is for Joseph. I think CLP is a pioneer in building energy facilities, right, in the Greater Bay Area. The Daya Bay Power Station is like 30 years old. And can you share with us your experiences and what are the potential for energy development in Greater Bay Area?
Yeah. Yes, we started the Greater Bay Area Cooperation in the 1980s.
Before the term existed.
Way before the term existed. Actually, in the 1970s, we started selling power to Guangdong because in 1979, with the early days of the open door policy, there's great demand for electricity, but there's not enough electricity. So we ended up selling power to Guangdong in Hong Kong starting 1979. And then we were very glad to be part of the Daya Bay Power Station venture. That was at the time the largest Sino-foreign joint venture at that time. We were able to structure the project using Hong Kong's background and electricity demand to build the power station, which at that time costed roughly around 1/3 of the whole mainland's foreign reserve. That's how much it cost. So we were very glad to be part of that, to be part of the open door policy to implement. So we've been in Greater Bay Area for many, many years. And in going forward in the future, we continue to see great opportunities. For example, we're developing our energy service business in Greater Bay Area. Now, in Greater Bay Area, obviously, the power shortage situation is much alleviated, not like in the 1970s and 80s, right? But there's still opportunity for doing energy service. How can we help them make their shopping malls, make their district cooling infrastructure more energy efficient, right? And that's what we're currently doing right now.
So is Hong Kong going to import more renewables or nuclear in the future? How does it fit into our carbon blueprint?
Yeah, that's a good point. Now, as I just mentioned in the climate action plan by the government, by 2035, we aim to import more zero carbon energy through regional cooperation with the mainland in Guangdong primarily. So that could come in the form of nuclear energy, it could come in the form of renewable energy. So we're actively developing that, and it's a key part of how we help Hong Kong decarbonize in the future.
Thank you. And so Johannes, Hong Kong is always a gateway to China, and now we have the Greater Bay Area under the concept of one country, two systems. How do you see the prospects of GBA and how European companies can play a role?
When I came to Hong Kong in 2018, and that was just when also GBA was beginning to be a term. And I think for quite a number of years, the Europeans always said, well, it sounds great, but what is it actually? I think this is now actually changing, that we can see what it is, and we have actual examples. We have, for instance, in logistics with the airport, the cargo airport obviously is very important for Hong Kong, and you have now interoperability between the mainland and the Hong Kong airport, where you can actually see customs clearance taking place much more easily. So I think GBA is now becoming more alive. For Europeans, you mentioned earlier, Henry, the scheme where permanent residents of Hong Kong can now travel more easily to the mainland. One thing that I think all the chambers are constantly asking the mainland China government to do is to extend that scheme to Hong Kong residents. Because, of course, the permanent residents are great, but they're here anyway, so no need to attract them. The ones you want to attract are the new ones, and I think that would be then very much a USP for Hong Kong if you can say, okay, you move to Hong Kong, and then maybe after 1 year or maybe after some additional accreditation, you can then very easily move in and out of GBA, because then, of course, we do get a lot more of talent. We have a huge amount of German European industry in Guangdong, in the GBA, and if we can attract more people to come, they can, of course, support the advancement there. We spoke briefly before. European industry is now also learning very much, of course, from China in terms of battery storage, EV, and this would aid then the exchange that would then be both ways. So I think a key thing there is to make sure that the seamless travel to GBA becomes even more seamless.
Thank you, Johannes. And Paul, what's your views on GBA? Are you worried about the US tariffs? It's coming, right? Very, very soon. And how it would affect GBA, because GBA is also an innovation technology center, hub of China. What do you think?
I think the terrorists, I think Trump is over-accurate, because I think they call 60%, I think it's too much. Because I think one ping pong for the US is the inflation. If they increase 60%, I think the inflation in US will be very high. So there's no chance for US to lower the interest rate next year. So I think Trump will not do that, I think. Secondly, I think US consumer will actually suffer from that. So I don't think the situation is so worse as everyone expected. I'm a little bit optimistic. And secondly, I think for the mainland, especially the GBA, I think the carbon trading market is huge, because China is the biggest manufacturing hub in the world. So with this transition, I think the amount will be huge. For example, some of the research mentioned that the carbon credit trading market in China, just voluntary, will be in 2030, we are about $10 billion. But the whole world is the same about $10 billion. So you can see the potential. And secondly, a lot of companies like the BYD and all this, they do not have enjoy the same treatment of the Tesla. If you see the Tesla recent quarter earning result, Tesla get about $800 million US from the carbon credit. That means other car company buy their carbon credit, the income. So in future, if China and Greater Bay Area and Hong Kong international carbon credit market has established, well established, I think a lot of EV company and also clean energy company can sell their carbon credit and make a lot of money just to pay the dividend to the, I think, investor. This is very attractive already. This is free at the present moment. You do not do any other investment because you do not have all the infrastructure, carbon credit trading platform in place. If you have the exchange in place, you can get more income and then you can use for capital investment or giving back to the shareholders. I think this is huge opportunity. So I think in future, a lot of more money will come to China if our carbon credit trading platform and exchange established.
Thank you, Paul. So Nick, you have the final word of this question. What do you think Hong Kong business and professionals what we should do to promote GBA, green development, in particular under our really geopolitical tense environment?
I can't have the last word. The story is still being written by people in this room and beyond. I'd say, as professionals, we have to pay close attention to how the world is developing, evolving, see the big picture. So I'm grateful to Herman and Friday for putting the forum on, and so we can learn from each other. And I think as professionals, apart from doing our day-to-day job, day-to-day file, it's, for a lawyer, for example, rather than one court case at a time, in some ways, if you think further, it's much better to, find what laws are lagging behind technology or development and improve that so we don't have that issue. But if you talk about GBA, if China is a factory of the world, then GBA is probably the heart of the factory of the world. But also, Hong Kong, of course, is a main role in the GBA. What we need to do is to show the world how we are united as one. We bring along our 10 friends, right, to go see the world, and to we talk about 平船出海, which is to, if we go outside our safety environment in a ship, then we tie our ships to go together. It's a lot safer. In short, I think one of the things I would invite our guests to ponder on is to use Hong Kong's uniqueness, Greater Bay Area's uniqueness under one country, Hong Kong's and Macau's one country, two systems, how we could see through the development of RCEP, RCEP, Regional Close Economic Partnership. Now you can make 40% of the product in these 15 countries, and you could sell to many different parts of the world tax-free. But then you have 60% left. The 60% perhaps you can make it in places like South Africa, so you could then sell the products tax-free to the US, tax-free to 15 countries in Asia, and Egypt similar to Europe. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. We have gathered a few questions from the floor. We may take one or two. But before that, any further comments from our speakers on what I've discussed? Any supplement? If not, then maybe I'll take the first question from the ground for Paul. We know the economic downturn, in particular in this region, China. So how do you persuade businesses to take up more responsibility for ESG? Because, everyone is cutting costs, and ESG may be seen as a kind of additional expenses for many companies.
As I mentioned, that is not additional burden to the company, because if you are doing the first mover, you are being the first mover, you have the first mover advantage, because first of all, the regulation is not tight, and also there's subsidies, and also you can get the talent easier, because if everyone is joining the journey to have the ESG, the ESG talent may be not enough. So you can get the ESG talent, and also you have time to train the ESG talent at the present moment. And then for funding and all this, because I think a lot of you can do the education to all your stakeholders, including your staff, your client, and all this. After they accept it, they can they like your product, they like the ESG, and the trend is there, then you can make more money and make more profit in future. So that's why I think ESG is the trend for the future. The earlier, the better. You do it earlier, the better you can achieve the success.
Okay, thank you. There's one more question about Africa. So may I really have the last word from Nick? The question is about, African countries may have lack of funding and infrastructure to achieve green transformation, and how Hong Kong can support these countries to initiate or finance these projects.
So we should go there more, and we should share our market access, expertise, and technology and people. I think a lot of you know about 260. Some say Africa is the next US. The economy is going to be booming, so we should have a first mover advantage, as Paul here mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think that's the end of our panel one discussion. And I wish to thank all our 4 speakers for your insights and fantastic arguments. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So we have prepared thank you certificates for each of our panelists. So let's welcome Professor Hu on stage.
Professor Hu will hand out certificates to our panelists, Johannes Haak, Nick Chan, Joseph Law, and Paul Pong. And of course to our moderator, Dr. Henry Ho. Okay, guys, how about a group photograph?
Let's step forward.
Nothing happens in Hong Kong without a group photograph. Picture it didn't happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and please be seated. And now we have a little treat for all of us now. We talk a lot about the importance of the environment, but seeing is believing, right?
Okay, now one of the panelists in the next session has made an amazing video. He commissioned the top filmmakers in Hong Kong to capture the environment of Hong Kong. And it's just about to be launched, this film. We've got a little snippet of it, just 3 minutes. And we're going to project it big. You'll miss the bottom few inches, but I think it's really worth seeing from Dr. Samuel Choi. So please sit back for a moment and see just what we have to protect in Hong Kong.
eastern part of Hong Kong, the waters of Mears Bay and Port Shelter are blessed with the highest natural habitat diversity of Hong Kong waters. Take a stroll along the Maclehose Trail and High Island Geotrail. Get to the UNESCO Global Geopark and enjoy the geo-wonders crafted by the ocean and volcanic activities. Whether you go there for field studies or guided eco-tours, you will find this nature education journey nourishing. Only if we learn how to appreciate that will we cherish nature. The sea is the epitome of Hong Kong.
Thank you, Dr. Choi, for a great video.
Now it's time for our second panel. The title is Innovation Drives a Greener Future. Let's welcome our moderator, Professor Whitman Hong, member of Global Council World Summit Awards.
Thank you very much. Great to see you, Whitman. Let's also welcome the panelist members. They are Dr. Samuel Choi, Director of the Environmental Protection Department of the Hong Kong SAR Government. Professor Peng Gong, Vice President and Pro-Vice Chancellor and Professor of Global Sustainability at the University of Hong Kong.
And let's also welcome Professor Michael Yang, Senior Vice President at the City University of Hong Kong. And also Mr. Albert Wong, founder and president of the World Green Organization.
Thank you very much. We'll hand me over to Dr. Whitman Hong.
Thank you, Nuri. Please sit down. First of all, I'm very glad, very honored to be a moderator with such distinguished speakers. And before we start, I first want to congratulate my dear friend, Professor Michael Yang, who has just been admitted to the 2024 National Academy of Inventors of the United States as a fellow. Congratulations. So we just seen a very beautiful video, and today we also have a very good weather, but we're going to come here and talk about climate change. We had some preparations, but I think the main thing is climate change is real. Right? This year we have a typhoon in November. I grew up in Hong Kong. I never remember we had a typhoon number 8 in November before. So it's real, but what can we do? I mean, we all know that in addition to a greener lifestyle and consumption practices, technology plays a very important role in migrating to a more sustainable economy. So, and that's why our panel will focus on this. I'll first start with the Orient of Technology universities. We have two, vice presidents of vice chancellors of, two of the top 100 universities in the world. Maybe I can start with Professor Gong first. So, what's your view on the role of technology in a more sustainable economy?
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity and for the question. So technology plays a transformative role in accelerating our transition to a sustainable economy. It allows us to monitor environmental change, reduce emission, and build resilience against climate impacts. For example, in my own area, advancement in remote sensing and artificial intelligence enable real-time tracking and monitoring of global greenhouse gas emission, providing critical data for policymakers and helping detect potential tipping points or climate catastrophes today. However, technology solutions must be supported by robust policies, interdisciplinary research, and public engagement in order to maximize their impacts. Mr. Chair, that's my...
Thank you, Professor. And Professor Yang, what do you think? You agree? Anything to add?
Yes, certainly. I think technology, human society, the whole evolution, and particularly the revolution over the last 200 years, is because of the development of technology. Technology help improve or enhance the productivity, efficiency, and everything. But it is also this human activity, this increase in terms of the productivity that caused this increase carbon emission and other environmental issues. So it is, in my opinion, it's not just technology, it's the people behind the technology, how we can utilize them and utilize them more effectively and efficiently. And I think from that point of view, how we can tackle the current global problem require a global effort, both from the technology point of view, it need to be a multidisciplinary and also need to be a multi-sector, require the collaboration from academic, industry, investment, and the social community, and also a cross-boundary, international effort.
Thank you. I think, you see, I come from a background of technology myself, and after 35 years in technology, I always had this dilemma is we technologists sometimes had this tendency of over-promising, okay? And eventually it happens, but sometimes from when we expect that technology to bring improvement to actually when it happens to really make the impact can last anything from 10 to 30 years or even longer. So, of course, from university, we are really at the cutting edge at the very, very beginning because from there, then you have, productization, you make it in a product, then you go to the market, it's a long journey and there's a lot of uncertainties in between as well. So, but before that, maybe the two professors also can share with us a little bit about within your individual universities. Of course, Professor Gong, you are actually a professor in sustainability, so that will make it even easier. So what are the areas that you are actually focusing in terms of Hong Kong U?
Thank you very much. So talking about, first of all, I agree that today's problem are multi-sector, particularly to address climate change impacts. We need basically the whole society. Nobody can be left alone. Everybody need to participate. They have different roles to play. And in climate change technology, it's no different than other technological development. Science comes first from basic research in the universities. And then you really need to collaborate with entrepreneurs and also marketing people, working together, join hand in hand, take the best practice in the world on technology transfer, and eventually to, in a hope that the companies will meet with market needs and to help us to push forward the solutions in the society. But indeed, Mr. Chairman, you asked me to share a little bit about our own research in the university. So at HKU, for example, we built an Institute for Climate and Carbon Neutrality. And in that, we try to promote science and technology development. Usually it's original, not meeting the market. And we also build basically a platform for people, politicians, community leaders, NGOs, general public, and also scientists and engineers to exchange, to work together, to inspire each other, and hopefully that we will be able to come up with more practical solutions to the society. And the last one we are doing in the Institute is actually to promote teaching. So we set up various kind of programs to at different level, master's level, basically a whole program, and also teaching in the undergraduate. We also send professors to the high school, kindergarten, and preliminary school for various kind of extension. So those are the three aspects that we are doing. But on the technological side, we do, like what I mentioned, greenhouse gas emission monitoring, not only carbon dioxide, but also methane. So we have formed a team. Just like Professor Yang said, we're not really restricted to just the University of Hong Kong. We collaborate locally with other universities. We also collaborate internationally with different scientists and engineers to do research on this aspect of greenhouse gas emission monitoring. And second, we do green hydrogen solutions. We develop that in our chemistry and also mechanical engineering. We have professors working on that. Not only that, we also have professors working on the energy storage, aspect. And third is to build energy efficiency construction, houses. So that's our school faculty of architecture and also our real estate and construction management faculty members are actively working in those areas. So those are the kind of areas that we work in our university.
Thank you, Professor Kung. I think it's glad to know that you are, on top of what you're doing in the research side, you're also doing the teaching and promoting in all the way to kindergarten. That's actually the first time I heard about this. And then Professor Yang, talk about. I have to declare interest. I'm an adjunct faculty member of the College of Business of CTU, so he's my boss.
Thank you, Whitman. I think I agree with you. I think for technology people, we always tend to overestimate the promise of a new technology and underestimate the potential side effect or adverse effect of technology. I mean, taking AI as an example, right? Right now, everybody's talking about AI and everything, but one implication is the energy they require to run all these big models. And imagine that if everybody is using that, that would be tremendous. And what kind of effect on the sustainability? Now, from the research and development perspective, there are certainly a lot of things that we can do. Universities, together with the industry and the community, can work with. Now, in CTU, we have realized this issue as a critical global challenge. And so we have set up a school of energy and environment a number of years ago, because we believe that the issue of climate change the environmental impact is closely related with the energy. Now, I just give one example of the research coming out from that school. One of our professors is studying the ecology, studying how insects, particularly insects, survive in the Sahara Desert. The desert can have a surface temperature of 60, 70 degrees, but they are organisms, insects, they can live there. And so with further study, they find out that actually the insect has developed throughout maybe millions of years of evolution, some kind of a surface, the shell, that has some kind of narrow structure that can deflect the infrared, the heat from their surface. And so come back to the lab, our research team actually synthesized some kind of nano material that has the similar property that can reflect the infrared wavelengths of the light back to outer space. So the research team has managed to convert that into some kind of a painting, and we have done a test last year actually in the Sanshui Po area next to a CTU. Sanshui Po has a lot of tongfang, okay, and the people living in the tongfang in the top of the building. It's very crowded, very hot during the summer, and when we apply this painting on the roof of this tongfang, actually the temperature inside the room got down by about 5 to 6 degrees without turning on the air conditioner. So this is some kind of example of some technology that can help to address the issue.
Thank you, Professor Yang. I happen to know that company very well. I didn't invest in it, but one of my friends actually invested in it. So
that's great.
It's good.
Yeah.
Now, we're very glad to have Director of Environmental Protection, Dr. Choi here. The government, okay. What are the strategies of the Hong Kong SAR government towards building a more sustainable city to combat climate change? Can you share with us the experience and effectiveness of such strategies?
Thank you. Testing. Thank you very much. Before we talk about the strategies, let's look at the carbon footprint for Hong Kong. Actually, we are using about 60% of the carbon emission is from the power generation, the electricity generation, and about 20% is from the transportation. And then, in fact, the Hong Kong government has already published the Climate Action Plan, this one, and including 4 major strategies. The first is the net zero electricity generation, the energy saving and green building, green transportation, and waste reduction. In this plan, we have already set our targets to reduce the carbon emission from 2005 to about half in the year of 2035 and achieve carbon neutral in 2050. And in fact, we have already passed through the peak in 2014. And from 2014 to now, we have already reduced 30% of our carbon emissions. So we have done a very good job. And if you compare the carbon emission, the per capita carbon emission from Hong Kong, we are about 25% that of US, and about 60% that of the European countries. So we have achieved a quite low number. And you will think why we are so low. And first of all, we would see the fuel mix in Hong Kong. We have about 25% now is using coal, and 25% is using nuclear energy, and about 50% is using the natural gas. And in fact, this has already changed from about 50% coal to 25% coal. That is why we have cut a large amount of the carbon emission. And in the future, we are going to have more nuclear energy, and then we have more the green energy. And also in our public transportation, we are a little bit different from the other countries in the world. 90% of our transportation is based on the public transportation system. And about that is 50% is by the MTR, the Mass Transit Railway. And the other half is mainly based on the public buses and public light buses. So that is why we have achieved a very low carbon emission. And we are going to do more. And we are prepared to use more new technologies, new energy sources, and also we are getting prepared for the climate resilience, which I think the whole world is going to prepare for that.
I like the word resilience, but I would like to learn a bit more. But before that, you just mentioned about technology. So what do you see is, what role does technology play in this?
Well, as a government, we have to look at, in fact, not only the new technologies, and also we have to rely on a very reliable source of energy and new technologies. In terms of new technologies, the government has already published a plan for using the hydrogen. Hydrogen is very clean, right? When it gives us the energy, it produces only water. And, but there is some risk with the hydrogen because of the explosion risk. And therefore, in promoting the use of the hydrogen in the future, we are looking from the legislative point of view. Especially in Hong Kong, we have many tunnels, and you have the hydrogen bus or hydrogen vehicles passing through these tunnels. You need the standards and the safety standards, design standards, and also the legislation to control it. And also, we have to work with the market, and then we progress gradually and prudently so that we can achieve this. And we have already moving ahead with this. We have now getting to promote the use of using the for trial for the heavy vehicles like the street washing cars, the refuse collection vehicles, double-deck buses, and coaches, and so on. And we also looking at other sources like uses, like the power supply in the construction sites. And we are building all these for making use of the new technologies.
Thank you. Now, Albert, our old friend. Albert has always been known as the Mr. Green, and he loved to dress in green as well. And today, I know you have been promoting a liaison on Green Belt and Road. I remember you told me this like 10 years ago, just when we started the Belt and Road. Can you elaborate that and also talk about what is China and other countries doing in this? And I know you were a member of this UN committee in Asia, also specializing on green economy. Can you also explain a little bit of what you do there?
Okay, thank you, Whitman. Green Belt and Road. I think this description of Belt and Road has been there for quite a number of years, since it started. We put green in front. Of course, we believe that the Belt and Road initiative is a very powerful and impactful journey that a lot of countries can join in. But to make it more meaningful, because we have a new meaning in the UN about the word green. It's more than environmental friendly. So what we're trying to say is that for green, we do good, we practice kindness, and we uphold moral justice. This is the overall terms that we are now pushing forward, because we thought like anything we do good, it must be right. Right in the sense that, with the UN, which was established in 1945, we were talking about universal rights. But actually, nowadays, only rights is not enough. We also talk about rights and responsibilities. So the word green nowadays applies to what we can offer to serve mankind or serve the world in a global perspective. I think this is something that even Hong Kong, when we look at things, we don't look locally, addressing issues of Hong Kong issue, but also global issue. Because in that sense, we can have more space in letting us to do a lot more meaningful things together. I mean, climate change is one of the issues nowadays that are so hot. But it's no longer a single fragmented issue because it's all integrated with what we are doing now, in the economy, in our daily life. I mean, with all the new technologies, that we have invented, I think this is not about technology itself. It's not about innovative. It's also, I think this is about what purpose, higher purpose are we serving? Is it for the betterment of human being or the living creature of our earth? Or what other objectives do we have? But if we have that kind of objective or life in purpose in life, then we know how to apply these technology and these solutions in a meaningful way. In that case, we can also put in the kind of formula that makes a business model more meaningful, that when you make money, you are making happy money, but at the same time, you are solving a lot of problems of the world. I think this is the kind of the green views that we have nowadays. So just now you mentioned about the UN. I mean, the UN Asia Pacific Social and Economic Commission, they have launched a new initiative called the Asia Pacific Green Deal Initiative in 2022. So at the same time, that year, ASEAN chairman, which was Mr. Hong Sen, chairman of the Cambodia government, also introduced an ASEAN Green Deal Initiative. So this is a very important step that move forward in the Asia Pacific region, because what we need to do now is to provide total solution, through total policy framework of each country. So it is kind of a things that has been putting forward in Europe by the European Green Deal, which has been talking about all the policy changes and needs that we have to push forward in that certain region. So there's a lot of breakthrough in the past 20, 30 years. Especially nowadays, we have global standards, global policies, global measurement, which we can follow, which are now done by the UN, by the World Trade Organization, World Health Organization, and other global institutions. I think this is something that we have to know, that the world is changing so fast, which we are no longer talking only about environmental issue. So it's all in one. So if we can solve those problems, then even in the business sector, when we talk about the economy, there are so many new names, but the new names are already actually for decades. The green economy, the digital economy, the circular economy, the blue economy. These are all very good. It's just that we need to together integrate that in a simple story for people to understand. So I think this is what the world are now going forward to.
Thank you, Albert. Dr. Cui, I understand that your department has also done some initiatives in the Belt and Road countries in terms of green and technology. Can you elaborate a bit?
Yes. In fact, sharing of information about the environmental protection and to tackle the climate change and climate resilience is one of the things that we have been doing in Hong Kong by our department. And we signed the Memorandum of Understanding for training and sharing of knowledge and experiences with various countries, for example, the Sri Lanka and also Singapore. And we also hold the annual function, the Eco Expo, every year in about October. And we will show the new technologies and the way we deal with all these challenges during this Eco Expo. And for example, we arrange visits for our counterparts in these countries to see what we do in Hong Kong. For example, in terms of the climate resilience, we have faced a lot of heavy rains in these 2 years. For example, last year we have a very big rain with about 600 millimeters of rainfall within a day, and we only have a very limited area of flooding. And we have a lot of rain during the past 20 years, but you seldom heard about, or in fact you have not heard about, any major landslides in Hong Kong. It means that, in fact, the government has been doing a very good job in our infrastructure. And these are experiences and knowledges that earned by us over the last 20 to 30 years in controlling the flooding, in controlling the landslides, and so on. And during these, the Eco Expo period, apart from the new technologies and also the exhibition we hold, we bring them to see what we do in terms of how we deal with the flooding. For example, the big underground reservoirs and the drainage systems, and how we build our seawalls to tackle, to face with the big waves in these typhoons. So we do a lot of these. And in fact, when we go to the Sri Lanka, we bring a whole team, including the officers in the Environmental Protection Department, as well as the Drainage Services Department, the Agricultural and Fisheries Conservation Departments. They all bring their ideas and knowledges to these countries, which we know that they need our knowledge and also our experience. And last time when we visited them about a few months ago, we also bring some air quality modeling and water quality modeling. We develop the systems for them so that they can move on how to use this to help the countries. They love it, and they hope that we can continue to help them.
That's very good to know. Sharing of information, collaboration, and sharing of best practices. I have to compliment. I remember when I was a kid, we had landslides and we had floods. Okay, and I used to live in a wooden hut in where Cyberport is today, and I experienced one typhoon number 10 then, and it was quite an experience. I was a kid, but nowadays we don't see that anymore. So really, this is good. My next question is, we talk about all these good things, technology, helping, resilience, but what are the roadblocks? What's preventing us? Okay, we have achieved 30% carbon reduction, but there's still 70% left, right? Where, we think we are, Hong Kong people are a little bit more environmental friendly in terms of our emission, but personally, I'm not 100% sure. That's just one measurement. If you look at the bottled water we have consumed, we may have other measurements. So really, I want to ask one by one, maybe start again from the universities. Professor Yang first. What do you think are the roadblocks? What do you think are the things preventing us to take advantage of such good technologies and initiatives and best practices and actually making it happen, and not just happen in one place, but happen everywhere?
We look at this climate change. It is for the whole Earth. So it's not just one country or one city. So it's the global effort. So I think the key obstacle is in the politics rather in the academic. But having said that, I think we also, I think in Hong Kong we have seen a clear change over the last 10 years. because in mainland China, they have adopted this sustainable development goal, and they have implemented over the last 10, 15 years a lot of measures, technology-based. For example, the electrical vehicles. And this is something that we feel most closely. Remember 10, 15 years ago, we have a lot of hazy weather, very polluted winter. But now, we have blue skies most of the time. And if you go to Shenzhen, same thing. Why? I don't know. I don't have the research to back me up, but I believe it's because 90% of the cars on the road in Shenzhen are all electrical vehicles. That is one thing. Right? The other thing is in China, they have done a lot of work on in the northern part of China, in terms of try to reforest the desert area, and that has a lot of effect. Very typical is for Beijing. Usually in every winter, they have many of these they call sandstorms, 沙尘暴. But now you see fewer and fewer, and that's some effort that can be made. So once you have a determination, and the government has the goal and mobilize the whole society, I think it can be overcome.
I just found one thing is quite a few of our panelists today just mentioned that it's the responsibility of everyone. So it's not just one place, it's not just one city, it's not just the government or the university, but it's everyone. So I learned this phrase in Chinese before, but I just dig it out from my phone. There's this thing called no snowflakes is in an avalanche ever feels responsible. So the Chinese is 雪崩中没有一片雪花觉得自己有责任，但是 but there's some other translation. But so I think this is a good description of what happens. But also, Mr. Professor Gong, maybe you can mention a bit what. So Professor Yang said it's policy. I actually
no, not policy, politics.
Politics. Okay. We unfortunately we don't have many politicians. We have Herman's kind of a politician, but unfortunately Dr. Cui is a technocrat, so he's not a politician. We probably have to talk to the politicians later. But I kind of not totally agree with you. So, but I will reserve my comments later, because if policy can solve all the problems, we shouldn't be where we are today, this world. Okay, so we'll leave it to that. And also, I do know that in Shenzhen, the number of electrical vehicles is not 90%. It's a little bit around 60. So it's something like 61 or something. So it's good enough. But Hong Kong is about 10%. Okay, less than 10. Less than 10.
Probably
more. You sure? Yeah. Okay, maybe my figures from the transport department differs from yours. Anyway, it's a bit outdated. Or maybe I was not counting the public vehicles. Okay, yes, I was, because I'm involved in the road safety for 25 years, so I was paying attention. Anyway, Professor Gong.
I think, first of all, I'd like to make a little bit of additional observation about the mainland. In recent couple of years, actually, there's quite a bit of difficulty in China, in Beijing. If there's no wind, again, the problem is coming back. The air pollution is still quite serious. So that's really not something that we hope. But it's almost like you're climbing a sandy slope. You go up 2 steps, you slide down back a little bit. So hopefully we will get to our final top of the hill. But right now, it's a problem we have to admit. There's a challenge. That why does that cost so? It's mainly because of the loosened control, because people need to live. loosener control on the use of polluted energy, not necessarily car. Vehicles in the northern China plan probably account for about 30% of the air quality contribution. So the other 70% are mainly, burning of fossil fuel. So that's something that we should still observe, that it's difficult for people to really just stop, starving themselves and then try to have a good environment. So, but on the other hand, indeed, we need to take group actions. Right now, lots of people know the issue, but can we change our habit? So you are asking university's role and the roadblocks. I think in the university, we need to build something like universities themselves should have strategic plans on sustainable development, on green development, on combating climate change, and then make that into the heart of all the staff, faculty members, and also students, and have specific tools to help them to make change. I think, right now, let's take computer storage as an example. People will ignore, feel that, my little computer, I'm storing something, when I use it, it's so easy for me to access. That's live memory, then it's easy to access. If we can have a better way of storing data and knowledge in the computing system, and making those storage devices turn on only when you need it, actually provided the turning on and off are relatively safe and not, hugely consuming extra energy, then that's something that we should look into. I think those are the small amount adding up together eventually will cause the big pollution or problem. The reason I want to choose the computer area is today it's so hard for people to devote so much computing power into the chase of general foundation model development. Everybody is trying to do that. Actually, it's a waste of energy. It's another peak of, where does the energy come from? Unfortunately, it's not totally clean energy. Any share of the non-clean energy, if you put up the requirement of energy, then you are making more emission. So we are doing a research and calculating this and see how sustainable it is and see if we can change our demand and not to just go after others to do the 1+ thing. I think, there we can save lots of energy. It's very dangerous today. We go after AI because AI is consuming a lot of energy.
Yes. I remember reading the CEO of AMD saying, the lady, she said that in the future, all these AI computers, data centers, each data center needs to be powered by one nuclear power plant. So that really, I think, if that is the case, maybe we have to rethink. I came from a computing background myself, so we are as guilty as a lot of the other pollutants. I remember when I graduated in the 80s, I was in office automation, and the first thing we said is we're going to turn it into a paperless office. And unfortunately now, after 35 years, we're still not there. We're getting there. I try not to print out things, but still, we're not paperless just yet. Okay, and I remember when we first introduced teleconferencing, we thought that's going to save a lot of air tickets. Didn't go that way. So really, I wonder, some of these things, Professor Gong just said, people need to live. We agree people need to live, but can people live in a more sustainable manner? I think it all comes, in a certain extent, to affordability of this new technology. The people are burning their fossil energy because it's cheaper, or at least it seems to he or her is cheaper. The total cost is not, right? The external cost in economy is not, but for that individual. So how do we change that behavior? Anyway, we can discuss that in the next question, but I want Dr. Cui to talk about what are the roadblocks. Is it policy?
Well, I would say from the government point of view, there are many things that are blocking these. First of all, of course, is the financial implications, and then the infrastructure, and well, just take some examples. What the professors has already said is the cost, or using the EV, the electrical vehicles. In fact, in Hong Kong now, we have already got 100,000 private cars in Hong Kong. It's about 10 to 15% of the private cars now is in using the electricity to drive. And but this is the cumulative. If you just look at the new cars, over the last 1 year, we have already reached about 2/3 of our new cars is already the electric vehicles. And this, why is that there is a drive to that? Of course, the main reason is that the cost. And of course, it's easy to use. The cost is much lower, not just because of the first registration fee, but also the cost for the fuel. Okay, if you use oil in Hong Kong, it's very expensive, but electricity is much cheaper. So financial is an issue, and market availability is also an issue. And as a government, to use the new technologies, another major thing that we have to go through is the infrastructure. For example, if we look at the success of Hong Kong, in one of the things that we do, which is unique in the world, is the use of seawater for toilet flushing. If you were told the world that Hong Kong is using seawater for toilet flushing, nobody knows that seawater can be used. And if you ask the people in Hong Kong, they would say why they don't use it. So it's so strange, right? Because Hong Kong is the only place used the seawater for toilet flushing. And then a lot of the people will ask questions about corrosion problems, corrosion of the pumps, or etc., valves, and so on. But just one simple answer is that if a city used a technology for 60 years, the problem should be solved. Otherwise, we will not continue to use it, right? So, but what is blocking the other places to use the seawater is mainly because they don't have the infrastructure. So we have to plan it at the very beginning, and we planned it in 1950s. And now it's providing the seawater for toilet flushing for 80% of our population. And the cost of that and the energy consumption, if we compare the energy consumption, we're talking about seawater is only 50% of the energy that is used by freshwater, and only 10% of reclaimed water for using water reuse, and only 1% if you compare with desalination. So it's a lot of energy saving if you use the seawater. And then, while maybe some people would say that if you use the seawater, you can't use the reclaimed water from a reuse of water. And that problem we also solved. In fact, if you use the seawater for toilet flushing, we already save 20 to 30% of the fresh water that we use, because you use a lot of water to flush the toilets. And the total amount of the water that we save is already more or less the same as Japan in the whole country for reclaimed water. And in fact, in the new airport in Hong Kong, we use the seawater for toilet flushing and also for cooling. We use a lot of seawater for cooling, which saves a lot of energy as well. And we also use a lot of the reclaimed water for irrigating the grassland. You can see the grassland, the landscaping plants. They are using the reclaimed water So we reduced the water consumption by 50%. So it saved a lot of money and a lot of energy and a lot of fresh water. And but what is blocking the other countries is the idea, is the infrastructure, and we need to plan it in the early stage. So, because we have a little bit more time, I'm not sure whether you want another example. Okay. Another example which we recently done in Hong Kong, which is also a very unique in the world, is the COVID. Well, we have passed through the very difficult time of COVID-19 in the past 3 years. I think everybody remembers. In Hong Kong, we have no lockdown at all during this period. And what you will see or what you hear from the televisions and the radio is that we are using the sewage. We do the sewage surveillance, taking samples from our sewers network, and then identify the high-risk area to do the compulsory testing. And it's happened to be very, very successful. And during that major period of the time, in fact, we set up a 400 people team taking the samples every day in the morning at about 6 a.m. to 11 o'clock, collect the samples, do the analysis, the chemical and the biological analysis, and get the data at about 10 o'clock in the evening, in the night time. And then we complete the data analysis and then produce the report every day before 9 o'clock in the morning. And then these information were used to identify the high-risk area where we need to use the compulsory testings, blocking the buildings, and then or distributing the rapid testing kits for self-testing and identify the hidden cases and isolating them. And then we controlled. During the peak time, we have about 80,000 people getting infected every day in about the end of February. And by using this technology, sewage surveillance, we can control it to about 1,000 people in April. And we also, based on this technology of collecting the samples from the sewage, we can, using the statistical analysis, we can predict the number of new cases 4 days ahead. And the accuracy is 98% for a whole period. And then, of course, we do a whole day. So we do all these and using the new technologies. It is a very good experience in using the new technologies, but you have to have the idea, and also you need to go ahead and to do it right away. Thank you.
Thank you. I happen to know, if I'm correct, is that technology was actually a lab from Hong Kong U, because I had visited that professor. So it was very impressive. So, Albert, a different angle, non-academic, non-government. You have been an advocate. Yeah. And I know you also have been pushing the business sector to do more, I remember one of the initiatives from World Green Organization is actually teaching the corporates how to have a greener kind of operation mode. Can you tell us what's stopping us?
Allow me to share a view. I mean, I have been meeting a number of countries' leaders in Asian countries, and certainly also in China. And most of them, they are ministers and also prime ministers, president. One of the question that I asked them, which they came back, surprisingly, although they overlook the whole country, each of their own country, But actually, there's a lot of questions they don't even have a clue or any answer to it. So I think the problem now is that it's not a problem, but also opportunities to let more people understand what is happening to the world. There are so many solutions nowadays, socially and commercially viable solutions. There are a lot of things that can be practices through the good manufacturing practices or business practices, and they are proving to be right. So there's a lot of things, changes undergoing in every country. I mean, even in Asian country or even in Africa, or Middle East. Certainly, a very good example where we can showcase a lot of successful cases are from China. So, even in the past 2-3 years, now more and more example from China has been illustrated in the UN. Because in the past, they were so afraid to even mention about any examples in China. But nowadays, we are talking about real facts, okay? And also the infrastructure of what our other speakers has been talking about. Infrastructure, policy, politics, whatever we mentioned about. I think one of the key issue is about what solution, what benefit can bring it to every stakeholders. Because that is very important for politician, for the businessman, for the layman, for the educator, for the government sector. A lot of now new solutions are catered to solve a number of problems at the same time. So it's a multitask things that are happening in the world. So this is what we have been trying to do. This has been also been proven, when we met so many world leaders. And they were coming back, and then we were asking also another question is that, which issue is the most important issue that if you're a government, okay, what priority will you give to education first, environment, or the business sector, or whatever? They all came back nowadays with the same answer. Everything comes at the same time. So we have to solve and design from the very first beginning. So this is their thinking. So I think this is the mindset change that are very important nowadays. So what we have been doing is to do kind of these piecemeal works in the past 10, 15 years in the community. But it's not only the World Green Organization, it's that a lot of different institutions are doing different things in a piecemeal manner. But maybe some people know, maybe some people doesn't know. But altogether, we are forming a kind of a movement where I think people are now realizing the need of the changes that we have to go through now. So I think this is what I have in my mind.
Right. I know you are also sometimes into investment. What does the financial industry view in terms of green tech? Paul Pong is gone, but he was mentioning about this new investment fund, of course, the bonds market. But I remember, if you asked me 10 or 15 years ago, all the so-called, environmental protection business in terms of like recycling and those, none of them makes profit, okay? And it was a very difficult, but maybe that's just because at that time the infrastructure wasn't there.
Yeah.
But recent years, I do have seen, at least in my industry, that we are, even my own company, we are actually investing into, new green technology or related ones. And I'm seeing like institutions also come to us and ask to invest into our incubatees. What do you think?
I think as I said, the world is changing very fast in such a pace that we have to catch up with all not only the technology, but also the kind of business model that the world are now changing into. For us, we are not looking only on technology, it's how the technology can apply to fulfill or achieve the multitask that we have just mentioned. Because nowadays, actually, in the past, we were only talking about a single technology on certain material or what. But actually, those material can be applicable to many different industries and how you think, how you apply. And the investors are now looking into it in a different way because that is the potentiality of that investment. Because it's no longer, it's not just about like the just the technology in this AI or whatever, but also in material or nanotechnology or other that are applicable. So they are thinking of like how you apply and how you can make it really, really robust and make it big and multiply effect.
Thank you. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but of course, I'm still involved in some very single task technology that are easier to measure its impact and easier to commercialize, actually, in my opinion. I have a question from the floor. It's how can we educate the world about selfishness, which is hindering our fight against climate change? So this person is already identified. Selfishness is one of the roadblocks, I think, while we were talking about all these things. It says Hong Kong U question mark, so I guess we start with Hong Kong U. But I would think that education of the general public is not the job of one university. It's also the government. It's also us as a media and industry leaders. So, but we start with Professor Gong. How do we teach them? How do we educate them?
The reason I already mentioned, I agree with you, that it's a whole society's issue. Obviously, education is important. Yes, we all, from kindergarten to the university, we need to train people to become aware of the issue, to really being able to provide evidence-based, intelligence and wisdom to everyone in the society, in the hope that we are able to overcome the selfishness issues, and also because in this business, it's almost like you try to think that you gain something, in the meantime you lose something else. So if everybody is aware of that, and also in our culture, in the Chinese circle, being able to stand out, to point out other people's improper or misconduct takes courage. And it's also an education issue. Again, it's not just the educators' responsibility. It's the employers, government, and also families' responsibility. It's everybody's responsibility.
I have an observation, we just mentioned that China has really moved a long way in terms of environmental protection, rebuilding the desert, all this sustainable energy become the leader in capacity. I remember we used to import solar panels from Germany, right? And now we were told we are over capacity. But anyway, in China, I would think the ordinary citizens, ordinary people on the street, they're not as environmental aware compared with our European friends. So when I walk on the street of Europe, or when I talk to my European friends, they're all talking about this. Every time I see them, they ask me about, what are you doing? What's Hong Kong doing on climate change? Here, the government is doing a lot of things. The government is making rules. We are now having no plastic forks and knives, and people are still complaining about it. But the reality is, there's two approaches. Here, we try the government make the decision, set the rules, and do it. There, the government set the rules, but they also, for whatever reason, they're ordinary people on the street, especially the younger people. I'm not talking about that little girl, but some other younger people. Their awareness is much stronger than what we see in Asia, actually, not just China, but in Asia. Is there anything we can do about it, Michael? Or should we do anything about it? Or just let the government do its job and we just sit back and relax?
Now, go back to the original question from the floor about the selfishness. I'm not sure whether selfishness is the reason. I would think it's more like ignorance, because human, we only have lifespan like 80 to 100 years, right? So we cannot look beyond in a larger scale in terms of time and space. And the climate change is with very much longer span. And the effect take a very long
Theoretically, but we're probably going to see it in our lifespan, unfortunately.
I know, but you don't feel it dramatically, like you starve or you're facing the war, and that's imminent, right? And so I think that's one thing. And so it's a matter of how the whole society can instill, I think, two things. One is from the regulation point of view. For example, we have to pay tax. We don't like to pay tax. But if you don't pay, you will be in trouble. Okay, so that's from the regulation perspective. Secondly, it will be from the more sort of ethical or conscious, to build up this sort of ethical code into the human conscious. I mean, 100,000 years ago, I don't think human has the ethic that if you're hungry, you don't go to the neighbor and try to take the food from the neighbor, right? But over the years, now it's built up in the ethic of the human modern society, and so, and also in the conscience of every child, all the children. So this is also I think, from the bottom-up education in every level, from kindergarten, we start to build this environmental climate. This is the earth as one thing. I think it can be done, but
so we need to advocate more. Anyway, in the interest of time, I would now like to ask every panelist to give me a 1 minute, not a summary, but more of a, let's be positive, forward-looking. What can the society do as a whole to bring solidarity to the fight on climate change? So start from maybe Albert. Yeah.
Thank you, Women. We are actually in a journey of globalization, and it cannot be reversed, actually. So either you walk in positively. I'm a super positive thinker, okay? And then I also realized that, we have learned enough from the history. So don't make same mistake again, or don't make better mistake again, okay? So in order to avoid that, actually, I would like to say that there are things that are right and wrong that we have to identify. To me, it's no gray area. The kind of green things that we are talking about, the moral justice, or all these things that we're talking about, about human beings, is to do the right thing. So if you think that is right, do it. Don't consider and wait. Okay, this is what I think.
Dr. Chui?
Well, as I have said, ideas are very important, and sharing of experiences and knowledge is also very important. And that is why we have been working very hard to share our knowledges with the Belt and Road countries. And we hope that we can continue to work on that basis. And especially Hong Kong has a very special location, and we are the super connector between the mainland China and also the rest of the world, and we hope to be a super value adder. And we also make use of our special situation and location, and we hope to build up a hub that we can share the knowledge and become the bridge of the technologies from mainland to the other places.
Professor Gong?
So I strongly agree with the previous speakers. And I have 4 points to re-emphasize. One is to promote technological innovation. Second is to foster collaboration platforms. And third is to enhance climate education and awareness, and forces to strengthen equity and also make sure we can act together.
Thank you. Professor Yang?
Yeah, I think very positively, I think technology eventually is going to bring all the solution. I think from the energy production point of view, eventually the hydrogen-based control fusion, these will be will certainly come into place that will have zero emission. Secondly, how to reverse the current carbon dioxide, how to remove the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. I think that require on the material science and also a number of other measures. And right now we are only use maybe 10% of the periodic table to build up whatever the material we have. So there's another 90% waiting to be explored. And with the power of AI, that will certainly come up with something very new and very powerful, I think.
Well, on that note, let's join hands and thank our distinguished panelists for this wonderful discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody, and thank you to our moderator, Whitman Hung. Please stay on stage for a moment. You're going to get some certificates.
Yes, and let's welcome Mr. Chang Chi-kung, Deputy Secretary General of Hong Kong Coalition, to present the thank you certificates.
The certificates are being presented to Dr. Whitman Hung, and also Dr. Samuel Choi, Professor Peng Gong, and Professor Michael Yang. Right.
And please step forward for a group photo.
Thank you very much. You may leave the stage and take your seats.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Except for Mr. Cheung. Okay, Mr. Cheung Chi-kung, please come up for the final remarks.
Thank you to all our honorable guests for joining us today and sharing your valuable insights. Sustainability is an agenda that has become increasingly important in 21st century. In recent years, with the promotion of ESG, sustainability has come to be a popular topic across multiple fields. We can observe a pattern. The more advanced human development, the greater the emphasis on the sustainability. We recognize that to create a better future, there needs to be a responsible development model that does not just focus on the present. Today, our guests have discussed technological innovation, business and economic models that demonstrate precisely this long-term perspective and a deep sense of responsibility among the global community. As a country with huge population, China is a key player in any future governance effort. As we said a few years ago, China's success in poverty alleviation has contributed not only quantitatively and also qualitatively to the world's response to poverty issues. As China's overall development levels improve, sustainable development has emerged as a new concern. The Chinese government has demonstrated strong commitment towards climate change, and our achievement has been widely recognized. China has become the world's largest renewable energy market and a top producer of clean energy equipment since the ESG concept was proposed. China has always been an active advocate, participant, and promoter of global sustainable development. In terms of afforestation, the forest coverage rate in China has increased triple since the founding of the PRC. The new added vegetation area accounts for about 25% of the world's total increase. China's long-term climate pledges for 2030 and 2060 were also written into the 14th five-year plan, making the first five-year plan in the nation history to include climate goals. Furthermore, the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution in 2018 included ecological civilization in the Constitution for the first time, placing ecological governance and environmental protection in the path of the rule of law. Sustainable development seems to be a new topic in recent years. However, sustainability is a wisdom that our Chinese ancestors had always cherished. Now, I would like to invite every one of you to look at our history, the history of the Chinese ecological civilization. We have a philosophy, tradition of unity of heaven and man, 天人合一. Heaven refers to the natural environment on which human beings depend for survival and laws of nature within it. We regard the laws of nature as the supreme law of the human world. We seek coexistence and harmonious unity between man and the nature. In practice, we summarize it as what we take from nature should be well measured, and have we used these resources should be restrained. 取之有道，用之有節. Well measured means that we value the laws of nature to protect our resources. In ancient times, we already make laws to regulate the timely use of the biological resources according to the law of nature to protect the extinction of species. 以時入山林. Restraint means saving and frugal. Even wealthy family will teach their children to value resources and not to waste them. 珍惜 the food on the plate. Each grain is hard-earned. 誰知盤中酸，粒粒皆辛苦. All these values are shared by the Chinese people across the Greek tradition, 大傳統, which represent the thought of the elites, and the 小傳統, the small tradition, which characterize the living style of the ordinary people. This value has existed thousands of years, not just today. So, the seemingly new concept of sustainability has been deeply rooted in our cultural DNA. Back to our future again. With the inherent wisdom, we must focus on the creative transformation of the precious traditional value and make them universal. Apart from values, we need action too. I believe that with the effort proposed by each one of you today here, coupled with innovation and technology, there will be more and more ways to achieve a sustainable future. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for your participation. Your efforts are mostly needed. Your effort is not for our city, not just for our country, but for the people and their future generation living on our planet. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cheung. Actually, that was very fitting because Professor Hu started off by quoting Lao Tzu, and we have Mr. Cheung finishing by also quoting ancient Chinese wisdom. So thank you for that. I think in honor of the environment, next year, let's have this meeting on the beach. What do you think?
Sure.
Repulse Bay Beach, next to the pizza shop. Okay. Well, big thank you to all of you for coming. Thank you to the wonderful work done by the organizers and all the technical people. And thank you, of course, to our moderators and panelists and honored guests. Thank you for Samuel Choi for his amazing statistics, which, do you know we had 3 typhoons in November? I mean, climate change has got to be real, right? Okay. We can't deny it anymore. And thank you from Ella and myself.
Thank you, and thank you guys all, and we will see you next year.
See you next year. Thank you. Okay, that's the end of the live broadcast, but we're going to give a few certificates.